What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and in kicking off my series of Disney reviews, I'm here to let you know that The Hunchback of Notre Dame is no perfect movie. And in it, the Hunchback of Notre Dame is the cathedral's bell ringer Quasimodo, played by Tom Hulce. He's never been outside the cathedral because his guardian, Judge Claude Frollo, played by Tony Jay, tells him that the world will ridicule him for being a monster based on his deformities. But when he meets a young gypsy girl named Esmeralda, played by Demi Moore, he discovers the injustice that Frollo has brought onto the gypsy community because of his racist beliefs. And Quasimodo has to decide for himself whether or not he's going to fight for his own independence and the independence of the community. This was a movie that I did see when I was a little kid, and for whatever reason, it really didn't leave much of an impression on me at that age. It wasn't until I was in high school when I watched it in grade 10 because it was a part of my French project. I had read the book, and then we got to watch the movie in French because our teacher just was like that. And I learned two things. One, this movie really has not a ton to do with the book. For starters, Quasimodo is not the main character of the book, despite what people believe. The book is actually about Esmeralda, and parts of the book are loosely in the movie, and those parts are really enough for me, but there are entire characters written out. The tone is obviously a little more upbeat because it's Disney, but that's one thing I learned. The second thing I learned is that this might actually be one of my favorite Disney movies ever, and considering I latched onto it in high school, that's really saying something. The best part of this movie is its scope and scale. The animation makes Paris look unbelievably huge just based on the scale of the buildings, just how populated the city is. They have really good use of computer graphics to give certain scenes this sense of like sweeping camera motion, like when Quasimodo eventually does escape the cathedral or swoops in to save Esmeralda. Those scenes felt huge and epic thanks to that sweeping sense of movement. And the music adds to the animation by giving the movie this almost operatic feel to it, and I can't stress it enough. This movie has some of Disney's best songs ever. Bells of Notre Dame was the perfect opening to this movie. It showed us the scale of the film and the high stakes of the story through the music. And I can't remember the name of the actor who plays Clopin, but his singing voice, one of the best in the movie. His high notes just bring chills to me based on how good his singing is. Out There might actually be my favorite Disney I Want song, and a part of it might be because Frollo sings at the beginning to enforce what Quasimodo is fighting for in his own life. Plus, Tom Hulce sings so passionately when he's in character. Even though he doesn't have the greatest singing voice, his passion to what this character's needs are is worth noting completely on its own. And of course, as some Disney hardcore fans have pointed out, Hellfire. One of the best Disney villain songs ever. That entire sequence works perfectly because of the camera angles, the dim but also high oversaturated lighting, Tony Jay's really good singing voice, and the themes of how lust and corruption can cloud one person's judgment, especially when they're trying to use religious authority as a means of power. All of these themes and all of these visual motifs add to a really good and really menacing and intimidating song. And of course, as you would expect from a Disney movie, the voice acting is also very well done. Tom Hulce, as I said before, might not have the best singing voice, and he also doesn't really have the greatest voice acting experience in general. His voice does kind of crack up here and there, but I feel like it suits the character very nicely because Quasimodo's been sheltered for all of his life, that when he finally is loud about the things that he wants in his life, he trembles a little bit. He stutters. He doesn't know how to say it to other people, and he's very fortunate that he comes across others who encourage him and try to motivate him to express himself even more clearly, which he improves upon as the movie goes on. He has very nice chemistry with Esmeralda, and Demi Moore adds this very passionate and ambitious and independent side to the character that works in the book, especially in this movie too. She also had really good chemistry with Phoebus, a character who was a big surprise for me because I didn't like Phoebus in the book. It made no sense to me why he wouldn't stand up for her because, without spoiling anything, he's kind of the reason she's in trouble with Frollo in the book. But changing him to a side hero, I think, really works. And the arc that he gets, where he's basically a police officer, but he's instantly sick of the corruption that Frollo has been laying out on Paris this entire time. Watching him try to do as much as he can to protect the innocent without getting caught was actually surprisingly suspenseful, and he has a nice wry sense of humor that I really appreciated. And there's no easy way to talk about this. This is one of the darkest Disney movies, and Disney has already been noted for disturbing imagery and themes and deaths, and this movie has all three of those. But it's the fact that it talks about religious authority and how people abuse it that's kind of come under fire. Not lately, but when the movie came out, it was just like, are kids going to be able to understand this? Should kids even be taught about this already? Should kids be taught this stuff at all? And I would say yes, because upon looking at this movie and looking back on how it really didn't leave an impression on me the first time around, I can't say this would have traumatized me or is going to traumatize any other kids, but it reminded me a lot of his Dark Materials in that it didn't doubt the existence of a god. If anything, it was actually kind of optimistic about it. It just calls out people who use religion as an excuse to do whatever they want. In this case, Frollo being absolutely racist towards the gypsy community, which also leads into why Frollo is such a great villain. He sees himself as a holy man, despite the fact that he does all of these horrible misdeeds to people, which he believes is his own way of sacrificing his own goodwill for the sanctity of the church. And one thing that I also notice is that there's actually an entire song, Esmeralda's song, God Help the Outcast, that kind of calls out religious followers for praying for nothing but materials, because when she's singing, there's a group of easily wealthier citizens who are praying for money, for status, but she's walking the other way. She's all by herself, and she's singing about God helping these poor, unfortunate souls that she lives with. I had to sneak that line in there. I just couldn't resist. But honestly, I could go on and on about it, but in all seriousness, The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of the best Disney movies that they've ever made. It has some of their best songs, their best animation, their most well-realized characters and villains. And the only real flaws that I have with the movie are, like most people, I wasn't a fan of the gargoyles. It wasn't their personalities I had a problem with. A lot of people were like, this movie's about acceptance, but they keep teasing each other. I kind of saw it as a Bert and Ernie thing where they fight with each other, but they're still friends because they realize what matters most to them. Their jokes just weren't funny. That was really about it. And instead of them, I would have liked more time given to the Archdeacon. I like the actor that they got for him. He's played by David Ochkin Stiers from MASH. He has a very nice singing voice and speaking voice, and the fact that he's supposed to be this one character who Frollo is afraid of, the only person that Frollo is afraid of, he only gets to do that for a couple scenes, and then afterwards you forget that he's even in the movie. But outside of that, I had a great time with The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It actually made me a little teary-eyed during the end of the movie, and there's no doubt I'm going to be watching this movie over and over again as time goes by, and I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews in my Disney movie series. If you've seen The Hunchback of Notre Dame, what did you think about it? Whatever it is, be sure to let me know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.